A concept we introduced in August of 2018, the 246th episode of Takes on Takes is coming your way today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins, and we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase.
Jay, happy Friday to you. Very well done. How long did it take you to calculate how many episodes it takes on takes we had?
I just went to the server and searched takes on takes and saw that it was, well, the great thing about the search and feature is that it reduces it to just the titles that have takes on takes. So it was like 245. Go back to the first one. It was August of 2018. It's like, wow, man, this has been really cool concept that we've been doing for a long time.
Yeah. I like it. It's one of our favorite ones. It is a great idea.
Yeah.
To solicit takes and then react and give them your take. And the wordplay is very clever.
Yeah, not bad, right?
Yeah, you did good because that was your idea.
Yeah. Well, let's do the thing we've done 245 times before right now.
Let's do it 246th time.
Here it is.
Almost a full year's worth of takes on takes.
And who better to start with than Vontel?
Oh, he's back.
Talking defensive line, baby. Mike Green, Marshall, edge rusher, big time boom at the Senior Bowl. He says will get drafted closer to Abdul Carter, the Penn State edge rusher, than he will the next edge behind him.
Is that inferring that he's edge 2?
Well, I think very clearly that's what he's inferring there.
Because I disagree with that. Shamar Stewart exists, right?
I agree.
So when you map it out, I think Abdul's going somewhere in the top 3 picks. The floor is 4, right?
Even if you stretched it to 5.
If I don't think, if this take is factual, but can be factual with him not being edge 2. So say Shamar Stewart goes to the Saints, right? Realistically, that's probably the next logical edge landing spot outside the top 5, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Mike Green being the next in line, you're talking about Cincinnati, Dallas, somewhere like the 12 to 17 range. You're talking half the first round.
So you're out.
I'm out on this take.
Well, you're out immediately because you don't think he's going to be the second edge drafted.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much.
I was trying to see, like, can this be factual even if he's not edge 2?
Yeah.
Because he says drafted behind him.
I can assure you that the next time we do prospects, this will be one of them, and Jackson Dart will be one of them. So we'll have that next week, surely. Draft Professor says fewer than 10 cornerbacks will be drafted in the first 3 rounds of the 2025 draft, and he cites that the average is 12. I'm not sure what that sampling is, but average is 12. You think we go under on the normal?
I'm going to take a risk here and update a tab on the hotel Wi-Fi for my last day.
It's been nice knowing you.
Be right back.
All right, so I'm curious to find this out because there's top-end talent at corner. I think the qualifier of Travis Hunter might factor into this if he's labeled a corner or not. Will Johnson, Trey Amos, Javon Revel. All right,
I'm here.
Good. All right.
Yeah. Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Shavon Revel, Trey Amos, Jahdae Barron, Benjamin Morrison, Darian Porter, Maxwell Hairston. Those are all first or second round guys for me. And then Azareye'h Thomas, Jacob Parrish, Kansas State, a little bit more of a nickel. Yeah.
It's right at it.
This is going to be close.
Yeah.
This might be a good take because of Mansour Delane going back to school and transferring to LSU. Because he would have been the grade that I think would have knocked this over and be like, yeah, I think we'll clear this. This would be pretty close. This is a good take.
All right, so below average quantities potentially here. I mean, if he says if the average is 12 and he says fewer than 10, feels like 12. You feel pretty comfortable about that being under.
You never know. Draft for need sometimes, but yeah, it's in that ballpark.
Jim says Kelvin Banks, that's the offensive lineman from Texas, falls to the second round in the draft this April.
I think he will tumble a little bit. I'd be surprised if he falls to the second round. I don't think it's like crazy outside the realm of possibility because it feels like there's a lot of hot names around him.
Yeah.
I'll pass on this, but like if you told me he got in the 20s, I wouldn't be surprised.
I feel like maybe the depth of the class helps make this true. If there's a lot of offensive line depth, which it certainly feels like there are, and you certainly affirm that maybe that you don't feel the urgency to draft Kelvin Banks, so I think is appealing, but I don't know that he's super refined. So I can see this. I can see this for sure. And I feel like the offensive, he kind of started off as a bigger name. And I think my initial reaction when we did his film was, this feels like an offensive tackle that everybody said is supposed to be like a top 10 pick, but nobody actually watched the tape. And then it's like, okay, as you take him for what he is and you start to assess the rest of the class and feel like, man, every time I watch another offensive lineman, I kind of really like him. I think that doesn't help a guy like that in terms of the projection. We got some good food stuff. I have one food thing baked into each segment. So here's segment one's food thing. And I think you're going to be in on this. Andy says that cold leftovers are always better than reheated ones and says there are no exceptions.
No exceptions?
Listen, Kyle, I have seen you open up a refrigerator, take a spoon, stick it in a bowl of chili, and just eat a bowl. Yeah,
it's true. I've done that.
I mean, and I'm not gonna lie. I think about that a lot. Because my wife makes chili a good bit, and I always think about pulling that out and just eating it right out of that.
Try it sometime.
I don't think I can. I love a lot of cold leftovers. I love cold meat. Leftover is terrific, like chicken wings cold the next day, pizza cold the next day. But you're telling me that I'm going to eat leftover spaghetti and not heat that up, or leftover lasagna and not heat that up? I don't think so.
We should do a segment called Cold Pizza and act like it's like a new thing.
Oh, what? Maybe a whole show. We call it Cold Pizza.
Yeah. It'd be like the morning after stuff. Just react to it.
We could do it. I mean, we could get up too, right? And do, give our first take on things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. I'm sure there's something I'm not thinking of that I would rather have as a leftover that's hot. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
But you're aligned with this.
Yeah, more often than not. If I'm gonna have the leftover, it's for the convenience that it's there, and I'm gonna eat it. I'm not gonna.
And I feel like you take exception with the whole process of heating something up. Like you've even said that you don't want to invest the time into that.
Yeah, it's there. There's a convenience factor with leftovers.
And you're like, it's because I don't want to prepare anything, huh?
Yeah.
Kyle doesn't even want to put it on a new plate. He wants to eat it.
No, whatever it's in the fridge is what I'm going to eat it off of.
What about fish? I know you like fish. First of all, I don't like fish, and I certainly don't like leftover fish. You can eat that cold? Is that a normal thing to do?
Probably not.
All right.
Probably not.
Okay, we got more to get to. Jayden Daniels and, of course, another food item in the next segment. Folks, be sure to stick with us. Attending sporting events is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. Every time that I go to a game, the excitement, the energy, it makes it a great experience. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I recently used Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming concert. Browsing through the deal was simple, and I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The Super Deal was especially impressive, offering the best value for the event. The app's features like seat views before you buy and all-in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout made the experience smooth and reliable. Plus, the on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee gave me peace of mind. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. The next one today comes from Eli. Eli says, I think quarterbacks should go the path of Jayden Daniels more often if they are not a for sure first rounder or top end talent. Daniels at his age showed poise and maturity in the NFL, and more quarterbacks should do that to avoid being busts more often.
Yeah, I think development once you get into the league is a real problem, and having more stops and more opportunities to play and more exposures, and now that there's more earning potentials at the college level to kind of help you stay committed to that idea, makes all the sense in the world.
Especially with, I think, the NIL piece of college football, it
right
kind of incentivizes you to stick around. And I think you look at both Jayden Daniels and Bo Nix as guys that transferred, leveled, I wouldn't say leveled up. They leveled up their game at their next spot. And I think not only did they improve as players, but I think adapting to a new environment, a new, with new players, new schemes, new coaches, probably positions them well to have that transition again in the NFL. And so everyone's path's going to be different, but you cannot deny what that did for those players, and then, of course, what it meant for them in their rookie seasons in the NFL. So, yeah, if you're not going to be, one of those Andrew Luck type prospects, it's not a bad idea. Peter with an aggressive one here, and I love that. I don't know if I agree with it, but I love the aggressiveness here. Peter says Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden is a top 5 player in this draft. His explosiveness, route running, and yak ability, don't know about that, make him elite.
So he had good yak ability his first year at Houston, in a very different receiving role than what he filled at Texas this year. If you're right on this one, spike the ball real hard. I would say that I like Golden. He's my wide receiver too. But a top 5 player in the class is pretty rich for me in a group that I think has a handful of really blue chip players in it.
Yeah, I think if you do the math there, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, like, pretty comfortably speak to me as better. I like Matthew Golden a lot. He might be my wide receiver 1, but a top 5 player in the class feels kind of rich to me. But I like the aggressive take. We won't know for 5 years or 4 years from now, but
come back and dunk this one if you nail it.
We always invite that. Carter says the Falcons should be seriously considering trading Kyle Pitts. It hasn't worked for him in Atlanta through multiple quarterbacks and offensive schemes. Maybe that's the problem. Recoup whatever value you can get, especially for a draft pick strapped team like Atlanta. Use that draft pick to get a rookie tight end.
Especially in this tight end class, which is awesome. There's 5, 6, 7 tight ends here where I'm like, you can sign me up for this guy. Put him on my football team. I think economics wise, Pitts is a hard one to iron out as far as the next contract as he gets close to the end of his rookie contract. And as a result, you have the running game. You have Drake London, who had his emergence this year. I think that the replacement of what Pitts has contributed is a little bit of a different conversation than the replacement of Pitts' skill set. But Pitts' skill set hasn't really been maximized. So I'd be down with this if they found the right taker.
Yeah. How much do you not like the idea of invoking Eric Ebron's career arc to Kyle Pitts? And like, slow start, had a pretty decent third season. He winds up getting to the Colts and has that big, 13 touchdown year, 750 yards. And then, of course, injuries, I think, kind of derailed him. But I think the point being is that a dynamic pass-catching talent. But I mean, dude, when has he actually had the opportunity to really flourish with their quarterback situation, with the changes in offensive coordinators? It's going to obviously be tough to reconcile that they picked him as high as they did, and of course all the success of the playmakers that went after him. That's always going to be a tough pill to swallow, but I think there's a lot of ceiling still here, and I think Atlanta probably has to think long and hard about what they think they can get out of him versus what's the real trade value. I don't think that there's a ton coming back for Kyle Pitts. Like, is your best chance to maximize Kyle Pitts as an asset unleashing him with Michael Penix and, you know, your offense next year with Zach Robinson?
Yeah, I think that's the opportunity cost is internal, not external.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to sum up exactly what I just tried to say.
Yeah.
Here's a fun one. I like this one. Michael says, given this offensive tackle class, Joe Alt would be a blank pick in this year's draft. So if Joe Alt was in this draft, and I know this is more of a question than a take, which we always pretty much frown upon, but it was compelling enough for me to put it in here. Hint, hint, wink, wink for those of you that keep asking questions when I put out the tweet.
Well, I can tell you, I had Joe Alt as my number one player in last year's class, period.
Yeah.
He'd definitely be OT1. He'd be a top 5 pick. I think the floor would be New England at 4.
So number 1 pick is Tennessee. Would they pick Joe Alt?
Probably not.
The number 2 pick is Cleveland.
Pretty good chance, I think, that Cleveland would pick him.
That'd be tough to move off that.
Yeah.
Well, you're deciding between Travis Hunter and Joe Alt. Come on, dude. I'm picking Joe Alt every time there.
Big boys club, right?
It's a giant. Well, I think 2's the spot. I think 2 would be the spot, if not 1. I mean, Tennessee doesn't have a freaking right tackle.
Yeah, so it's possible.
I think its ceiling is 1.
They've invested a lot, right? Consecutive first-round picks. Lloyd Cushenberry in free agency got a upper echelon center contract.
That some people got goofy on that Joe Alt evaluation, Kyle.
They did.
That one wasn't hard, brother.
That was the easiest one I had all year last year. What do you want this guy to be? Because he'll be all of it, and then some.
In defense of other people, and maybe a criticism towards myself, I didn't watch the year before's tape, and I know that there was a lot of growth. But if you just watch that last season, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what a top of the first round tackle looks like.
Yeah.
Obviously a good rookie season as well. All right, here comes this segment's food take from Sputicus.
Okay.
Greatness comes in many forms. However, pancakes are superior to waffles and French toast.
Give me French toast.
I knew you were going to go with the French toast.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about French toast. It can be kind of hit or miss, and I don't like the toppings on it. Like, sometimes there's like that powdery sugar. Like, I don't need like fruit. You know, that kind of bothers me. Waffles is not even in the conversation. All you're getting is a poor textured pancake. Like, I don't want the crunch. I don't need that. I would prefer pancakes. I mean, something about the texture, the fluffiness, you know, just want a bunch of carbs, just smash through a stack of pancakes, you know, on a Saturday morning. I'm taking the pancakes for sure. Then French toast, then waffles. Waffles is such a distant 3. It's not even.
Waffles was last for me as well.
Yeah. I mean, the consistency. You put them in the toaster, and I don't know, man. They're just a hard pass for me. Okay, got plenty of stuff to get into in the next segment, including somebody who thinks a certain coach might be the premier name to go after in 2026 for head coaching. We got that and more. Stick with us. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks has a free pick actually for the big game where if Patrick Mahomes throws for 1 yard, you win. You pair that with one more correct pick, and you are cashing out. This week, I'm looking at the board, and I'm selecting more for Travis Kelce on receiving yards and more for Patrick Mahomes passing yards. What I love most, fast, safe, secure withdrawals. When I win, my cash is in my account in as little as 15 minutes. You can also check out the promos tab to tell any of the super sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tell a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, Kyle Krabs.
Yes.
A few more to work through here. This one, interesting, from Joe at work.
Okay.
And now there's a piece of information with Joe at work that I now have to apply to every take that gets sent in. He's a Packers fan.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I got to know that. Joe at work says it won't happen. It's not going to happen. There's no reason this would ever happen. But here's the take. The 49ers should draft Ashton Jeanty, the running back out of Boise State.
This would be fun because their offense was so transformed when they brought in McCaffrey. And Christian, with what he looked like when he was available this year, and obviously the Achilles stuff and then the knee, and it's a concern with how hard that they've rode his contributions the last couple of years. But this is a team that's now kind of feels like they're at that tipping point where they're under the threat of deterioration of talent because of some of the contracts. And I know they've got a bunch of cap space, but are you going to let your starting quarterback walk because you can't come to a market deal with Brock Purdy? Or are you going to give him a market deal with Brock Purdy? And then that's just going to get more amplified. And Trent Williams and his status as one of the older starting left tackles in football. These other backs come into this system and they're all hyper productive regardless. It's a hard sell for me with where the rest of that roster is at, specifically with the offensive line and the tackle situation long term.
Dude, I think the 49ers are one of the teams that face as important of an offseason as any team, especially with what they own in terms of draft capital.
Mm-hmm.
They have a 1, a 2, 2 3s, and 3 4s.
Mm-hmm.
11, 43, 75, 99, 112, 138, 139.
No pressure, John Lynch.
Yeah, you got to get it going, man. And I do look at that as them as a team that should really be taking advantage of the depth of this defensive line class, where I think they have big needs.
Yep.
I mean, Javon Hargrave is an expiring contract. I don't even know if you want to touch that based on the injury and age there. And I think he needed help around him, even if he was healthy. I think they needed another edge rusher. So they got to take advantage of that. Maybe some stuff to figure out at corner. You mentioned Trent Williams. I mean, I think
Javarius Ward,
he's
his
gone.
Family obviously went through a very difficult situation, and because of that, he won't be back in San Francisco.
Right.
So
totally understandable. Right.
You're going to have a need a corner, like you said, probably for a starter.
Yeah. So I think very highly of Ashton Jeanty. I can't imagine my board being stacked and him not being a player that I think is one of the 5 best in this class.
Mm-hmm.
And he would make any team better. But I think this team's got to get stuff right in the trenches to really get back into where they've been as a NFC contender.
Right.
This one's for you from Tell. Not only is Jackson Hawes a good tight end prospect, he's from Georgia Tech, but he is, ready for this, the tight end 2 in this class.
No.
His elite blocking gives him a high floor, and his receiving work is underrated as he catches well and is hard to tackle for one person. Loveland, that's the Michigan tight end, is a much larger projection that rarely turns out. Is he tight end 3?
Excuse me. I love Jackson Hawes. I think he kicks butt. And the inline blocking stuff is a very high floor to a lot of snaps. But this class, if you're down on Loveland, you have to account for behind Tyler Warren, Mason Taylor. You have to account for Harold Fannin. You have to account for Elijah Arroyo, who just had one of the best weeks of anybody down here at the Senior Bowl. I think all of those guys have more inherent value in the passing game. Now, Hawes is the best inline blocker out of that whole group. But when you're weighing the contributions that the tight end in the modern NFL gives to an NFL offense, how much weight do you give to the inline blocking stuff versus how much weight do you give to competent inline blocking and a better receiving profile?
I can really appreciate that Tell is valuing the blocking component. because it does matter. And I think
Mhm.
whether you want to be a wide zone team or gap, like you need tight ends that can win the edge. You need tight ends that can pull and get out in space, that can set, blocks on the perimeter when you want to run quick game. Like there's a lot of important things that they do. And I think it's hard to find like the all-in-one players that are going to be really like above average and all of that. So I think there's going to be a lot of specialization with tight ends. And I think it kind of needs to be that way. And I think it's good that this player has a baseline level of receiving talent, but I just, if that's not the calling card, it's hard for me to really buy into this being true, even if I haven't fully watched the player.
Right.
Serge says after another year of dominance on the offensive side for the Commanders, Kliff Kingsbury will be the number one head coaching option.
The entire week has caught up to me in the last 20 minutes.
We're losing Kyle.
Let's see this one in the food take. I can see Kliff being a hot name, but I think people will have a hard time separating Kliff from Jayden Daniels. Now, I think people are going to want a piece of Kliff, but will that make you the hottest name? Maybe, maybe not.
I like the idea of Kliff Kingsbury's arc, where he's had an opportunity to be a head coach. A little bit of he had moments, right? I think that's fair. I think surely he should have learned a ton,
right,
in that. And I don't think Arizona's an organization that really sets coaches up for success. I like a lot of what Monty Austin-Ford has going on. I like that they're kind of committed to this vision. I'm certainly curious to see how it all plays out. But I think there's a lot to be said for the lessons he should have learned and then kind of getting back in that coordinator role and finding the success for Jayden Daniels. And if they build upon next year, I mean, surely he's going to have the opportunities to be back in the arena for a head coaching job. I don't know if I would go as far as to say the number one option, but I think he'll be attractive and I think he'll get an opportunity. And, I think there's going to be circumstances in that opportunity that are going to be important to maximize what he can accomplish. So, I think he's smart to not be interested in a job like the Saints. I don't think those are the types of jobs that are going to make sense for him. So we'll see how it plays out. But I like the arc, but I'm not convinced he's the number one guy right now.
Yeah.
And here's the food take to close us out. Kyle says this, and it's not you.
Me.
The full English breakfast beats any American breakfast.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, you don't know about the English breakfast?
No.
Really?
Not the full
man.
breakfast.
Really? Oh gosh, I definitely thought you were going to know exactly what this is. So a full English breakfast includes eggs, bacon, sausage, baked beans, tomatoes, mushrooms, and toast. And sometimes there's black pudding.
What's black pudding? Chocolate pudding?
No.
Gravy?
It's blood sausage made from pork, oatmeal,
this is horrible.
Pork blood and spices.
Who said? Kyle said this?
Yeah.
Man, I could not agree any less.
What's the premier breakfast? Because I don't even when you say American breakfast, I don't actually know what that means.
Pancakes, stack of pancakes.
Is it stack of pancakes?
For a circle and say big stack of pancakes, some fluffy scrambled eggs, and your choice of white wheat or rye toast with a cup of coffee and some orange juice.
To me, the best breakfast is steak and eggs. And not like the $2 steak. I'm not getting that from anywhere.
You're not getting the Cracker Barrel steak?
Well, if I have to, that'd probably be the lowest quality of steak I'd want. But conceptually, steak and eggs is that moves the needle for me for sure.
Yeah. I think there are much better options, but we are team let people like things.
For sure.
So if you like English breakfast, it's good for you. But
I don't know about the baked beans from the baked beans, man.
And then the black pudding and
the tomatoes. Oh, mushrooms as well, often on there. So yeah.
I disagree. That is going to do it for us here today on Locked On NFL Scouting. It's going to do it for this week. I'm traveling home. We will be back again tomorrow. No, I will be home today, and we'll be back again on Monday, much more well-rested than I am right now at 5 a.m. after going to bed at 1 a.m. after 7 days on the road. So I'm going to go pass out on a plane. You guys enjoy your weekends. Joe, you have fun this weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday. Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino, Locked On NFL Scouting. We'll see you again soon.